All right, I'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. Thank you. We would like to begin this transmission by saying we were going to talk about self-worth, but we're not sure we're worthy enough to talk about that. So you see what happens when you are in that state of being, of feeling that you lack self-worth. You deprive others of what you have to give. You're not giving the gifts that you were meant to give in your world, that others are waiting to receive from you. As we have said many times, if there is something that excites you, something that you have to give, some way of expressing your true self, there will always be someone waiting to receive that from you. And by feeling or believing that you are not worthy, not deserving of acting on your passion, you are actually holding back those things that others are waiting to receive, that they may need in their lives. Each and every one of you has something to give, has something of benefit, of service to others, that is simply representative of nothing more complicated than being your true self and expressing that truth in whatever way, shape, or form excites you the most, is most representative of your peace, your balance, your passion, your joy. Holding back on that also then allows you to feel diminished, devalued. The idea, of course, of believing that you are unworthy, as we have said from time to time, is proven to be false by the fact of your existence. For again, creation does not make mistakes, and if you were truly unworthy, you would not exist. So if you exist, which you do, or you wouldn't be hearing this, then creation must need you to. You must be that important, or all that is couldn't be all that it is, or all that it could be without you. So you are worthy on the most basic level by the fact of your existence itself. And any time that you buy into the idea that you are not worthy of your life, not worthy to be who you truly are, who you know yourself to be, who you prefer to be, not worthy, not deserving to live your dreams, then you are engaging, as we have said, in an argument with creation that you will never win, because you will never cease to exist. That is simply not possible. Existence is your basic quality, to be. And therefore, that basic worthiness, if you can understand that from that level, can begin to filter into the rest of your life and all the expressions of your true self that are reflective of your natural existence, of who you are as the unique individual you have been created to be. But if you buy into the idea of lack of self-worth, there are many different kinds of symptoms that will happen, many different kinds of expressions that will come from that negative belief about yourself. First and foremost, of course, the ones that seem most obvious is that you can experience what you call depression, which is again the negative view of what the natural state is, which is simply compression, which means you withdraw into the center of your being where you know the answers lie when you cannot find them outside. That's a natural experience. But if you negate it, if you give it a negative definition, then it becomes the experience of depression, as if something is wrong about going within. If you allow it to be the natural experience of compression, you will simply find the answers you seek. You will then emerge having redefined yourself as a new person. But again, buying into lack of self-worth may allow you to experience this as depression. And of course, people in that state can experience other side effects, not only mentally, emotionally, such as suicidal thoughts. But the idea also of physically causing dis-ease within yourselves, to manifest the idea of how you see yourself, to create a reflection in the outer reality, the physical reality, representation and symbol of how you see yourself energetically, spiritually. However, the idea is that you will always generally find that most people, even with the idea of lack of self-worth as a belief system, will attempt in some way, shape, or form to validate themselves. The only difference will be that if you actually are holding on to a belief that you lack worth, you will attempt all that validation outwardly instead of inwardly. You will not know how to validate yourself on your own. So you will seek it, if you seek it at all, through the idea of an exterior expression. This kind of insecurity about yourself leads to a polarized expression of the ego. And in fact, those that are the most insecure, the most connected to the concept of lack of self-worth, will express their ego in a very exaggerated way to counterbalance and make up for the fact that they don't actually believe they're worthy. So they will attempt to express worthiness through the aggrandizement and amplification and blowing up of their ego, and express themselves in a very egotistical, very often narcissistic way. This should be the first clue that they really don't have self-value in mind, because they are attempting to create an expression of it, but it's, in a sense, an act. And they don't really believe in what they are saying, in what they are doing, in what they are expressing. They just don't want anyone else to know that they feel worthless. So they will put on a front, and they will seek, many times, again, as a symptom that you can recognize in life, the idea of outside validation over and over and over again, requiring quite often the idea of others to validate them, because they do not spend the time to validate themselves. So they will, in the sense, become very needy. Very often will be one of the strong symptoms, requiring constant validation from those around them, since they will not give it to themselves. This will, of course, create secondary negative effects in any form of relationship that they may find themselves in, because they will always be only relying on others to create the sense of worth that they simply deny themselves. So you can look for these symptoms and understand that it is coming from a place where they do not feel valued and do not know how to give themselves the idea of self-valuation, self-appreciation, to the degree that if they don't get it from others, if they don't, in some sense, insist on it from the outer reflection, they will feel empty, bereft, abandoned. But then another side effect of that, because they will awesomely be in denial of the idea that they are lacking worth, because they don't want to face that, is they will project onto others the idea that they are being abandoned, not being supported, not being valued by others, because they cannot face the fact that they are not valuing themselves, because they believe themselves not to be worthy of value. But they are in denial of the fact that they are doing that to themselves, so they will always project it on others who are not then willing to do it for them. These are symptoms as well of that self-devaluation, that lack of self-worth as a belief. So look for these symptoms and understand with compassion that such people may or may not be willing to receive new tools, new understandings of how they can know that they are valuable, know that they are worthy, know that they belong in creation, and begin to see themselves in a way where they don't require constant reminders from those around them of how valuable they are, constant reassurance from those around them that they are worthy. For that will not be a reflection that can last a long time. For others will sense that it is coming from a place of non-belief in what those people are saying to them. So even when someone might say, yes, you are worthy, yes, you have value, yes, I recognize these things about you, because they are in denial of it within themselves, they may not actually even buy it from other people, though they may act like they do, or act like they really need it, but they may not really still believe it. And thus they create a downward spiral of negativity that acts in many ways like what you would call a black hole in space, sucking up all the light, all the benefit, all the value they are given from others, to the point where others begin to realize that they cannot give them enough value. They cannot, in any way, shape, or form, validate them enough. And therefore, they recognize that since all of that reflection is really just disappearing within that person and never actually being put to use in the sense of strengthening that person's ability to know that they are worthy, know that they are valuable, the outside reflection will eventually usually stop. And it will then thrust the person devaluing themselves into an even deeper downward spiral that can again lead to the concepts of depression, senses of abandonment, suicidal thoughts, and all of those things that go with not being able to support the self, not knowing how to believe what others are telling them, and needing others to do it because they will not do it for themselves. So take note in your lives, in relationships, when individuals are removing the platform from under their own feet, not able in their own minds to really stand, not able to give themselves the valuation that they truly need, constantly asking for recognition for everything that they may do, instead of giving themselves the recognition in a humble way and being of service to others. Allow yourselves more awareness, more conscious perception, and by all means, should you come across individuals devaluing themselves in that way, by all means share with them that they do not have to do so. By all means share with them that there are tools by which, and ideas and beliefs by which they can know that they are valuable, know that they are worthy, but also allow yourselves to recognize that unconditional love is not about continuing to support a vibration that is incompatible with your preference beyond a certain point. The most unconditionally loving thing you can do sometimes is to demonstrate the consequence of another person's choice. And it may not be what they prefer, but it may be what they're telling you needs to happen. Because if you do not give them a reflection of the consequence of what they are choosing for themselves, you give them no opportunity to change, no reason to change. It doesn't mean they will change, but at least give them a reason to. For if they want to remain in a relationship with you, by being given a clear reflection of the consequence of constantly devaluing themselves and constantly needing others to validate them, by showing them that you can no longer do so because it's actually not in their best interests for you to continue to support the negative behavior, you at least give them an opportunity to recognize that they may need to change if they wish to maintain the relationship with the real you and not with who they actually insist that you must be, because that is not being in a relationship with who you really are. So we would always encourage you not to reinforce the negativity, but to let them know there is always an opportunity to know how valuable they are, how worthy they are, and to give themselves what they need. And the irony and the paradox in this is that when a person does, in fact, humbly value themselves, they will often find that others will value them quite often. And they will see the reflections of their self-valuation in your reality and in their reality. So, use the power of the paradox to allow them to know that what they truly need will be given to them, ironically, when they don't need it. In a needy way. Because everyone needs validation. Everyone needs to know they are worthy and deserving. Everyone needs to know that. But the point is to know that by the fact of your existence, you are worthy, you are validated, you are deserving. And when you can stand in that certainty and stand in that awareness and stand in that knowingness, you will get the reflections that you need of that worthiness, of that validity. It will simply be the reflection of the energy you're giving off. Because when you shine, the mirror has something to reflect back. But when, like a black hole, you suck in all the light, there is nothing that can be reflected to you because you're giving nothing off that is representative of that validity, of that worthiness. Does this make sense to you? All right. So, just bear it in mind, keep it in mind, pay attention. Let your senses be aware of when you are seeing these symptoms. Do your best to assist, but not at the expense of your own worthiness. For that is never helpful nor loving to anyone. We thank you for allowing us to share this idea, this point of view, with you at this time. And in return for the gift you are all giving to us in allowing us to experience all of you, I ask, in what way may we now be of service to you? You may begin with your questions and sharings if you wish.